I'm Rosa of Collinwood. This is part two of The Good, the Bad, the Ugly with my buddy Butch Rosenbalm. Um, so, what was your favorite scene in this movie?
I have been waiting for close to 20 years for somebody to ask me this. I think it's the first time I ever saw this film. It's when Tuco rushes into the gun store and takes the various revolvers apart. And as I put it in my notes, Frankenstein's them into a new gun. I can't really tell you why, other than it's just, well, it kind of ties into my view of Tuco a little bit. Tuco is the ugly because I mean this with admiration and fondness. He's trash, character wise.
Yeah.
When you watch this film, especially if you're younger and you watch it the first time, everybody wants to be Clint Eastwood, calm, cool, collected. No, I've got you. But truth be told, we're probably all a little closer to Tuco if we're any of the three. So him coming into that gun shop and listening to all the guns, taking them apart, putting together, for however dumb or however much we want to underestimate Tuco, man knows his stuff. And I every time I watch this film, I wait for that scene. I love that scene. It shows that there's more to him. That in the scene with the brother in the monastery.
Yeah.
Shows there's more to Tuco than we get throughout the whole film. But it's the scene where he Frankenstein's the gun.
Tuco. The part I really like too is when he's like recruiting like people to go after Eastwood's character. But one of my other favorite, the one scene I love the most that just cracks me up is after all the Tuco gets tortured in a military prison camp. The fact that he comes up with the idea to dress like soldiers is hilarious to me in this movie. That's actually my favorite part because here's this guy who's got an eye. There's nothing wrong with his eye, but he's wearing an eye patch. And I sort of think this is a shot at True Grit a bit.
Yeah, but does this predate True Grit?
I think so. But even if it is or isn't, I don't really care. It's just funny. And it's just like the fact that you're dressing up like soldiers, that you're so desperate to find this guy's money that you'll stoop to this level. This is, keep in mind, this is post Willie Loomis breaking into the mausoleum and finding the coffin of Barnabas Collins. And why does Willie go into the mausoleum? To rob a stiff, to rob a grave. This is a Willie Loomis move and a half by Tuco.
I'm going to give you some homework. And I'm going to tell you about somebody that outdoes Willie Loomis or Tuco. It's a movie called Mr. Sardonicus, directed by William Castle. That's all I'm going to say. You get a chance. I mean, I don't mean it like next week, but you get a chance to watch that film, and it's somebody that not only outdoes Willie, but pays for it more than Willie.
Is it on Tubi or?
I don't know. I'll look it up and see, and if I find it anywhere, I'll let you know.
Okay.
It's over here on my DVD shelf, but I don't think that'll help. There's that scene not long after that. Him and Blondie get away, and he thinks it's the Union Army coming or the Confederate Army coming up. He's like, "Hooray! Hooray for the Confederacy! Yay, General Grant! Down with what's the other one's name? Lee. Down with General Lee!" And then they come up and they start beating all the dust off of them. It turns out it's the Union soldiers. It's like, God, poor Tuco. He tries. He also has another one of my favorite lines. Sorry for the glasses and the glare, folks. If you work for a living, why kill yourself working? It's not as good as when it's time to shoot, don't talk. But that's, that scene has stuck with me mentally a lot of my life. It's like, yeah, wait, yeah, that just makes a little too much sense. I mean, Tuco can't really say he's the everyman, but he's the common man in this, where you got two people in rarefied air with Angel Eyes and Blondie. He's just, he's able to stay with them.
Here's the thing, too. Tuca, the funny part about this, too, is out of all three people in this movie, only Tuco is wanted. He's the only son of a bitch that is wanted by the law in this movie. And it's just like, that's what makes it funny, that he gets the idea to wear the Confederate soldier uniform. It's like, for the love of God, dude. Like, Tuco is one of those characters who wants everything that's coming to him. But in the same time, he does try to get what's coming to him, but at the same time, he's handed the biggest ass kicking you'll ever see.
Man earns his money at the end of the film.
Yes, he does. Yes,
hey, I got something I wanted to bring up, especially towards the beginning. I know some of it's after he's been in the desert, but there's a lot of flies around him, Tuco. And I just kept wondering, is he, or it made me kind of think, that he died in the desert.
Yeah.
No, I don't really think this, but just a thought I had. And he came back.
Yeah.
The flies were flying around, indicating he was dead, but he still came back and got his money. I think it made me think that Jack Elam's character in Once Upon a Time in the West at the beginning, which, as I mentioned in the interlude, for anybody that watched that at the beginning of in Once Upon a Time in the West, there's three bad guys sent to kill Charles Bronson, Harmonica's character, and Sergio made a comment about wishing he could get Clint and Tuco and Levon Cleef. And of course, it didn't work out. And actually, I'm kind of glad it didn't, because I think it would have overwhelmed. But one of them, Jack Elam's character, is dealing with a fly, and he traps it in his gun. And I was watching that to GBU today, and it was like, yeah, that would have been Tuco. Jack Elam's would have been Tuco.
Now, what they do here in this movie, I think, is probably, because I know they do this in Once Upon a Time in the West, so I think it's the same thing they do here. It's what's on his face is I think it's honey. They put honey on Jack Elam's face, so I think that's what's on, probably a bit, not a lot of it, but just enough to draw the fly in, and that's why you see it on Now, again, they're not going to tell you that in the movie, but that's why it's probably on Tuco's face, is because they put honey on Eli.
We're supposed to. I feel like we're supposed to cheer for Blondie, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
But Tuco is just giving him down the road in the desert and not giving him any water. I never felt sorry for him. It's like, you're a cold bastard, and poor Tuco. He's just, in my mind, he's just getting a little payback for what you did to him. It's like, I felt no sympathy for him. It's like, kick him some more, drink some more water in front of him.
Yeah, there's no real sympathy for any of these characters at all. It's just really, they're just very three interesting characters who are all their own individuals. And they all have really interesting personalities, from Eli Wallach from Wallach's character, from Clint Eastwood's character. And really, just the fact that from Levon Cleef's character, what I love most about Levon Cleef's character, by the way, is though he's a cold-blooded assassin, he's a bit of a detective in a sense too. He tracks people very well, but he makes sure to ask the right questions. He's it's it's a touch of noir in a western where you have somebody who's asking questions, and hey, it's a protagonist doing it. And we've seen Leone with Indio make an interesting protagonist before, but this, it I dare say it one ups Indio because you have a character who's literally a bit of a detective.
Mm-hmm. And subtlety. I probably would have noticed this if we hadn't been watching these films so close together. I feel like Lee Von Cleef as Angel Eyes in this movie, he's a killer. There's a more of a warmth. That's a strange thing to say. For a few dollars more, he's
Yeah,
not a cold-blooded killer. I mean, he's a killer, yes.
yeah,
He is going to kill not Tuco, Indio for what he did to his sister, but I feel like there's a subtlety to Lee Von Cleef's performance in this movie where it's just kind of like, maybe that warmth. And even though we feel sorry and you feel like it's justified when he kills Indio at the ending of for a few dollars more, there's not that warmth. There's not that. I mean, it's a little more like you said, cold-blooded killer, but it's very much the sorry, pal, nothing personal.
yeah.
To quote Phil Collins with Genesis, I've just got a job to do.
Here's the thing too. I've said he's an assassin. I think that's the thing too. Colonel Mortimer is not, though he is a bounty hunter. Now I know they call them bounty killers in the movie, and we've talked about that in our prior a week ago. But Mortimer has a conscience about him. He is somebody who has a moral compass with, and he's not. Yes, he is about money to a degree, but he's not so much about money that he doesn't see an opportunity to get vengeance for the one he loved. And when he sees that opportunity, he goes for it, not really thinking about the money's more of a bonus, really. But when it comes to just the opportunity to get it, Indio, he takes it and just says to hell with the money. I got what I wanted.
Yeah, let's split hairs just a smidgen. Angel Eyes is an assassin,
Yes.
someone who kills for money or gain.
Yeah.
Colonel Mortimer is a killer.
Yeah.
He's not doing it for money. He's not doing it because somebody paid him or he's doing it because this guy killed his sister. I mean,
Yeah.
as I've said before, revenge. Where would most westerns be without some good old revenge in them?
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people, if this was a debate, would want to argue that there's not a difference, and I would argue that in this case there is, because in law itself, intent is a big part.
Yeah.
If I just walk up to you and I shoot you, that's murder. If you're breaking into my house or trying to hurt my wife or kids or whatever, that's a killing. And even legally, we look at that as a little bit different. I'm not saying either one of them is anything to be upheld and copied. Just their intent and the motivation reveals more about each character, and in my opinion, the acting style of the actor.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like where I live up in the mountains, don't get me wrong. It's not that there's not police that come up here. They are, but the police are so far away from here in town that pretty much everybody takes care of their own up here. So, like when I go for a walk down the road, every time I see my neighbor, he's sitting on the porch with his gun. It's just like, and that's not for show.
It's kind of like, yeah, hey, somebody tried to break in. No, you don't need to hurry. I shot them. They're dead. So, but I'll be on the front with my gun. Yeah, I'll put it. Yeah, it's down. Okay, see you later. See you in a couple
Yeah,
hours.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. That's just like, you gotta understand, like when people who don't live in the city and who live out in the country, it's like, hey, protecting my home is up to me. Protecting what I love and care about is up to me, not because really, if you honestly called the cops, first of all, it's going to take them time to get there. By the time they get there, it's going to be too late. So really, you sort of have to defend yourself, and you're sort of left to that sort of guys up here, really. Now, with with the character of Angel Eyes, he's very he's very businesslike. He When he takes a job, no matter what, he completes it. So the guy pays him, the guy he sent to kill pays him to kill the guy who paid him to kill the guy. And so he does. He kills both men for money because he took both jobs. And it's just like, man, this guy is a cold-blooded bastard. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get the sense of business, but really that's not something you had to do. It's just it's a moral code he's choosing to enforce. And that's sort of where he's bad, where he's evil, because he doesn't have to enforce it. He's making the conscious choice to enforce that code he says he has just so he can kill somebody.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
you were talking about how Clint in this and probably all three movies doesn't to go around. It seems like he goes around killing them, but usually he's killing in self defense or because he has to. He's not just walking around shooting people, which I used. I don't know if you ever. There was a video game called The Thing based on the John Carpenter movie. And it said, the thing about the pun intended, the thing about it was, you didn't want to be killed by the thing and taken over. Well, my first thought was kill everybody else. Game didn't like my solution. But Colonel Mortimer and Clint in all three movies killing self-defense, killing a reason. I guess money's a reason, but it's not just walking around killing everybody. Whereas Angel Eyes would. I could see him jumping in front of grab one of them Maxims or one of the other machine guns and just and not batting an eye. I mean, he's damn near a psychopath.
The fact that you kill, as a fellow gamer, by the way, the fact that you killed everybody in the thing, bravo, sir. Bravo.
Actually, it didn't let me kill everybody. I think after I killed the second one, it told me I lost because the party didn't trust me anymore or something like that. But that was my solution. That way, now I know who's the thing. I'm not the thing.
So there's this thing called video game awareness, and you know, and really what video game awareness really is, folks, is the biggest bitch of a video game, because there's moments in a video game, my friends, where, and there are games that do this, where you have a boss fight. You just had, not the main boss, but you had a boss fight. These mid-level bosses, where you just literally unloaded most of your goddamn ammunition. Well, there are games that have great recognition, like Resident Evil, and says, "Oh, here's some of your ammo back." And then there's games that don't have great recognition, like the game I'm playing, Singleness, where you just had a boss fight and you unloaded most of your ammunition, and then the enemies who are getting up, there are other enemies who are getting up off the floor, and well, your ammunition is jack and shit, and Jack's left out.
That left out.
I mean, there's just games that have great recognition. The thing sounds like one of them. And really, that's the developers going, you know what? There might be that one gamer out there who says fuck it and kills everybody. I don't know who that is.
Was one time.
There's gonna be that game that allows somebody to do that. It'll be Butch Rosenbalm who executes it. That's for certain. But well, there's other people too. But my money's on Butch. But now, do you think though? Because we've seen some Western video games. Do you think they'll ever make like the Dollar Trilogy the game or no?
No.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you one question. In my opinion, this is why it won't happen. Why would you do it? You can watch films at any time. Now you've got games like Red Dead and Red Dead 2 that both of us played. There's elements of Dollar's trilogy and other westerns in them. But a straight up Good, the Bad, and the Ugly / Dollar's trilogy game, no, I don't think you'll ever see that. Plus the fact, I mean, how are you going to do it? Everybody will want to play Clint.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless you do it like Grand Theft Auto 5, where you have 3 protagonists.
Yeah,
and
I agree with you. I don't think we'll ever see that. And you're right. Why would you? Because to me, Red Dead Redemption 2 is the perfect game, like the perfect Western game. Like, no offense to Red Dead 1. Red Dead 1's cool and all, but I hate John Marston with a passion. Simply because he's put in bronze iron, like he's got all the guns around him when you meet him. And when you meet Arthur Morgan, you meet him in this. Arthur Morgan's more your character. You get to choose who Arthur Morgan be.
Yeah.
You don't get to really choose that with John Marston as much. And I think with Red Dead 2, like you said, there's a lot of elements of not just the good, like the Dollar Trilogy, because you do get there's elements of Unforgiven. There's elements of The Great Silence. there, and I love it. The cemetery scene in Red Dead Redemption 2, and they play the Phantasm theme, is fucking beautiful.
there's when the gang storms the Bratwaith Manor, I kept thinking Magnificent Seven. That's they can almost play the the Magnificent Seven theme on top of that.
When they were walking toward it, because we had when I replayed it, when I had replayed it through the story mission, we literally just did the Wild Bunch. So when I watched the walk up, I kept thinking about the Wild Bunch.
When I played Red Dead 1, and then you're at the end of it, and you're in the barn.
Yeah.
Flash the Wild Bunch and Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid when they're they're in there, and it's like, you ready? Yeah, let's go. And both of those films, I think, and if you never played Gun, I think it's on PlayStation 2. It's, of course, it's not, obviously it's on PlayStation 2. It's nowhere near as good as Red Dead or Red Dead 2, but it's a very similar type game. I started playing it and moved and didn't get my PlayStation hooked up. Anyway, I never got to finish it, but what I played of it, I really liked.
Did you? Mark Alamo voices the character in Call of Juarez and the sequel to Call of Juarez. Both are great games if you've played them. But for those who don't know who that is, he plays Gul Dukat in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
And I hate to say it, he's up there with Ricardo Montalban's Khan is best villains. It's got to be Gul Dukat, Khan, Gul Dukat, and Kai Wynn, aka Nurse Ratchet.
Yeah, Kai Wynn is, my God, it's evil. That's
Anyway, that we're getting on
yeah,
the subject as
yeah,
usual.
yeah. It's all the host's fault. That son of a bitch.
It
Anyway,
is. Don't make me.
yeah, right, right. But what did you think? The score of this movie is probably, I would
Yeah,
dare say, it's the best.
it is. I agree. I was thinking there's the scene where Angel Eyes goes through the wounded soldiers, and there's a theme playing, and then there's one later. I believe it's when Tuco and Blondie are also working through all the soldiers, and there's two main themes on top of wah, wah, wah,
Yeah.
um, that are just amazing pieces of music. I used to have a roommate. Now I'm going to be nice because he's passed away now. But he hated the good and the bad and the ugly theme. He's like, oh, it's it's just so over. It's so pretentious and so ridiculous and over the top. And it's like I remember thinking that's got to be some of the stupidest shit I've ever heard. You hear that, action's coming. I mean, but him and I had a lot of different views on things. So, like I said, he's passed away. I don't want to speak ill of him, but let's just say I very much disagree. I mean, that's one of the. I mean, I've been in Walmart and somebody will have that as their phone ringer or their notification ringtone, and you can I turn and look, and you can always tell when it's somebody that's a fan of these films because they just kind of look at each other and like, "What's up?"
When my brother was alive, I had, you know how you receive a text message or a text message, and so I had from the Quest from the Holy Grail, Monty Python, where the guy gets shot with an arrow and he says, "Message for you, sir." Yeah, and I had that as my message when I received the text message. That I received one right in front of my brother, and he heard it. He goes, "Where the fuck is that from?" I'm like, and I said, "You've never seen Monty Python's Quest for the Holy Grail?" He goes, "No." I'm like, "You need to watch that shit."
Watching it right now.
That's it.
I set that as my notification on Outlook back in the late '90s when I worked for a software company, and I had to stop it. I had to take it off because there'll be some days we just get spammed with a bunch. No, not spam in the generic sense, but just a lot of emails will go out. Like somebody would do something, and the big boss is sending an email, and then HR sending. I mean, one day after about the fourth time it went off in less than a minute, everybody's like, "Can you change it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm coming right now. I've already heard it too much too."
My one friend had for his messages. It's like you were calling a psych ward for electric shock. Hit one. Like there was different things. Like Jesus Christ. But anyway, sorry. The duel sequence in this movie, my favorite score is the Ecstasy of Gold. It's so good. I mean, no offense to the main theme and everything else, but I think it's just so criminally good. It's not. That's not the specific reason I said that should be the title, but it should be the title because all three themes of this movie is money. By the way,
All three motivations is money.
yeah,
Our money.
yeah. It's like, but what did you? We've seen some great duel sequences in two of these movies. What did you think of the duel sequence in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the final duel?
I'm gonna be honest. I think it wasn't as good as the one in A Few Dollars for More.
Man, I agree with you because I think it's too predictable.
It's kind of a retread.
Yeah,
I
and it
helped to not been in a circle. I do like the fact it's a three-way
yeah.
hunting, and you don't know who's going to shoot who, and you're waiting for it to get how it to come down, and that part is good. I like that. But I always kind of feel like, yeah, I've seen this before.
Yeah, and I think too, like you're right. You're sort of wondering who's going to shoot who, but you're also keeping in mind of how smart Eastwood's character has been through the previous two movies. So it's like there's no way he's one of these characters does not have a loaded gun, and you know the character's not going to be Clint Eastwood's character. You damn sure know it's not going to be Levon Cleave's character. So that leaves Tuco, who's been the unluckiest son of a bitch throughout this whole movie. And it's just like, again, I'm with you. I like that it's a three-way because that's different than what we saw in the previous two. But I just think it's a little too predictable. Of it's not that you know who's going to get shot, you know who's going to win.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I say it's too predictable that who's going to win. I'm not saying it takes away from the movie in a sense, because there's been a lot of great build up to this. I think the build up is better than the actual duel itself. The build up is great, but the duel is. I sort of wish Tuco had gotten there by himself too, and it literally is a three-way, and he does have a loaded gun, and to see what really would have happened would have been really interesting because though these two guys could not stand each other, Blondie and Tuco, they were friends at one point and business partners. So,
yeah,
would they have shot each other? Is one of the best unanswered questions that don't get answered. And I,
the ending, the gun fight, the duel, kind of reminded me of back when I saw Return of the Jedi.
yeah,
Because Return of the Jedi, for looking fabulous, is a ultimately disappointing film. And in my, because to me, it takes the endings of the previous two films, the Death Star and the fight with Darth Vader, and puts them together. It's like, oh, let's assault the Death Star again. Oh, let's fight Darth Vader again. Now, admitted, things turn out different, but it's I kind of feel that way about this one. It's like, okay, we've kind of seen this before, and thankfully, it's not drawn out as long. There is a scene not long before that when Tuco first gets to Sad Hill, which is the name of the graveyard, and he's running around for seemingly 3 minutes, and the camera swirling around is just like, Sergio, cut this shit out. Just show me running in. I sometimes people get a little too in love with their own little things, myself included. I'm no one to critique Sergio, but it's like this whole could have shown him coming in, running into the graveyard, and cut about 2 minutes out of there.
Yeah. Well, I get the point of it. I'm with you to this because I get the point of why he's doing it. He's trying to make the point. This is a vast graveyard. I get it. That's cool and all. But 3 minutes,
Yeah. And it's also, I guess, I don't know if this is intentional. I felt like it was kind of symbolic of Tuco, like, where's I can't even think of the guy's name, the name on the grave, and he's who, what, when, how, who, hey, we get it. He's overwhelmed, and it's a huge grave. Excuse me, it's a huge graveyard, but okay, this a rare misstep in a really fine film. So, maybe the ending is a little, at least the duel is a little disappointing, but this is still a fine film, and it's a classic.
It is a classic Western for sure. It's really entertaining. It's a movie that does not lose you at all, and the characters are. It's crazy to think that here's a character that we saw in Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more than Clint Eastwood's character, and the character is still as interesting in this movie as he was in the previous two. Though this movie is a prequel to those two, he's still interesting. And you meet the character Angel Eyes, who's really interesting, and then there's Tuco, who's just as interesting as they are, if not more. I mean, Leone was always good at making his characters really, really interesting. And it really, that's what makes, don't get me wrong, the score makes these Westerns too. Ennio Morricone deserves a lot of credit.
Oh
But
yeah,
the character, the way the characters written, especially for a few dollars more. For a few dollars more is better than Fistful of Dollars for me.
I think
But
it's for film. Yes, I'll agree.
yeah, yeah, it's but really great character creations and making the characters all interesting and unique in all three films.
Indeed. I mean, if I think we've probably all seen films that maybe the setup is really good or the plot's good, the story's good, but the characters aren't interesting. And ultimately, it's like, I don't care about any of these people. It's a variation of the Godzilla theme or Cloverfield theme where it's like 20 minutes with assholes. And it's like, I don't care if all these people die. Can we hurry up and get to the monster? That's what I'm here for.
Right,
We do
right.
not have that problem in this film. I mean, because it boils down to three men try to find $200,000 and go.
Yes.
I mean, there's the whole line from TV Guide. Kids, look it up. But this movie is so much more interesting and so much more better. More better is better than that little description gives it. Due to interesting characters, due to a great score, due to some interesting scenery, due to fine acting and fine casting, and you know it it may have a few flaws here and there, but it just overwhelms. It's a great film. It overcomes any limitations. I mean, don't I'm going to speak for Joel for just a second and say, don't misunderstand us when we talk about things that are a little. This is still a great film. It's might be 4.9 out of 5, but it's one of the classics.
Yeah, I'm with you. I give this definitely 9.5, you know what I mean, out of 10. But we're not trying to knock it. We're just pointing out the things that we don't particularly like. Because again, when you see these movies again, everybody sees these movies in the same order, despite the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly being a prequel because it was released last. So they see Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And even if you reverse it, which I did at one point, it's still the same thing. Because because again, thank you, Grandpa. He showed me those movies in the order I just said about. Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more, and The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. Because that's how the TV programs, guess what, kids? That's how the cable provider programs it too.
Speaking of films in and out of order, I read it online. I've heard a few other people talk about it. I'm going to return to Star Wars for just a minute. They argue that the proper viewing order for Star Wars is number 4, number 5, 1, 2, 3, then 6. That the prequels are like a big flashback in between the 5 and 6. So Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, 1, 2, 3, and then Return of the Jedi. And sometimes watching, if you watch them in the order they're supposed to be, going back to Star Wars 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the movies change, in my opinion, too much. The universe of the prequels does not look like the universe of the original trilogy. You could watch these films in whatever order you want. Fistful of Dollars, few dollars more, Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for a few dollars more, and Fistful of, however you want to watch it. They all work. I mean, yeah, Good, and the Bad, and the Ugly sure seems to be a prequel, but watch them whichever way you want, because you know what? They still flow. They're still entertaining. Do they completely mesh up? No. Think of it as like TV shows from the 60s and 70s and 80s where you're meant to go into syndication and you can watch these episodes in any order and you're entertained, which is the main thing.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
I hate to do the glasses again, but let me check the notes. Let's see. Nope. I think that is everything there, my friend. Other than, hey, this is a great film. These are three great films. Crap, I didn't bring my DVD down. But if you haven't checked these films out, I believe they're all three on Pluto still for free.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't feel like you can call yourself a Western fan if you haven't watched these three films at least once. I can understand you saying, I don't like the spaghetti Western. I don't like Clint Eastwood. I don't like Leone, whatever. But you've got to see them at least once.
Yes. Almost. But for next week, I have a different kind of Western for you here.
Uh-oh.
It's The Assassination of Jesse James, told by the coward Robert Ford. Starring Brad Pitt, by the way. So we'll do a little more modern. By the way, this movie is long as hell. So I'm putting Butch through some long hours here, which I apologize for next week in advance. But
my wife is what you need to apologize. Who you need to apologize to
Jill Rosenbaum, I do take beatings. Just all I ask is that I be allowed to crawl into a ball before I get kicked. Or if you use a club, that's okay too. Julie does too. I'm used to those. Shout out to the lovely Jill Rosenbaum as always. But no, really, just a great movie, great trilogy. We are going to cover the Angel of Death trilogy here soon, I promise. But we're going to cover the assassination of Jesse James first next week. Butch, buddy, it has been fun. I will get both these videos up. Have a great rest of your weekend, dude.
Joel, buddy. Joel, thank you for having me in. It's great fun, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you watch parts 1 and 2. Ha ha ha.
Very, very nice. Yes, we're as evil. We're as evil as Angel Eyes. Yes. Have a good night, Butch.
I put my hat on.
Oh shit.
See you guys. See everybody.
See you, Butch. Bye.